I think we can start. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 4th annual Global Entertainment Showcase presented by Kultura PR and Cloud 21. We're virtual this year at the Cannes Film Festival as part of the French Riviera Film Festival. We've got a very talented and truly global panel for you today from the UK, France, Germany, USA, and Russia. And most of the panelists' films are also finalists in the festival. The plan for the evening is that I'm going to briefly introduce each of the panelists. We'll then get into a discussion, and at the end we'll have a Q&A session, so please do have your questions ready for that. Now, each of these panelists, as I've said, is so talented. There's so much to say about each of them. And first up is Ali Aksu. And I just have to read all this stuff about him because he's done so much. Ali is an international film producer, director, and entrepreneur. He's the executive producer of several groundbreaking projects, including the first ever Hollywood feature film to cast digital media talent, and that was distributed by Universal Studios. He's the founder of filmcapital.io, a community-focused Hollywood crowdfunding platform, and Auteur Academy, an educational platform to empower independent filmmakers. He's the Southern California Young Professionals Ambassador at the United Nations Association of America. He's an MBA candidate at Chicago Booth School of Business. He holds a BA in economics with a minor in film, TV, and digital media from UCLA. And he's earned executive level degrees from MIT, Wharton, and Singularity University. Welcome, Ali. Hello.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm great. How are you doing?
It's an absolute pleasure to have you, Ali. Such a wonderful CV for you. And I believe that we're now going to see a trailer for your film.
Oh, thank you.
I think it's never been easier to access Hollywood than now.
We're at a unique time where it's all in some ways being redefined.
One of the most important factors in terms of being successful is your network.
It's all relationship marketing.
Today I'm going to talk to you about the process of making movies. Are you passionate about it? Are you somebody who believes in your movie?
I will be discussing all things entertainment law with you today.
So the real challenges move from how do you produce good content to how do you promote the good content and how do you actually get an audience.
Wild stuff of Hollywood, how to get in, what to do.
Production, legal, and film finance.
Translate their passion for what their product is and communicate that really in the language of film.
It's the abstract world that dictates how the physical world works.
The script is product, so the business end of things. What are people looking for?
Numbers and how important they are to making sure that your vision becomes a reality.
So come join the conversation.
Let's talk about it.
If you really want to advance your career, I suggest you join Kultura Academy.
Okay, we'll be hearing more from Ali shortly. Next up, let's welcome Anna Fishbein. Anna is the founder and president of Exo Feminist Productions and Anterior Films. Anna is an award-winning star of stage and screen. She's a filmmaker, director, author, and actress. Her movie Galaxy 360, A Woman's Playground, which she wrote, directed, and starred in, will be released in theaters and on major streaming services later this year. The pre-release version of the film screened to a packed house at the Cannes and Big Apple Film Festivals and was a finalist of the Sundance New Frontier exhibition. Anna wrote and starred in the web series Happy Hour Feminism and directed and starred in Invisible Alice, a short musical film, both of which garnered many awards. Invisible Alice is a finalist in this year's festival. Welcome, Anna. Hello. And again, Anna, we're now going to see a trailer for Galaxy 360.
the 31st Annual Victor's Angels Mr. World Beauty Pageant.
Some of the talent here is just
smacking your ass.
It's remarkable, to say the least.
I think if you suck it in a little bit, suck it in, and then say walrus.
Walrus.
Good.
Suck it in, suck it in, suck it in. I know you're not starving. You ate a potato chip.
You ate
a potato chip. How many times have I told you to starve? To starve. To starve.
What are you doing? Last time you started this, you know what happened. You're doing it again. You're playing with my emotion.
We know it's against pageant rules to flick or sexually harass men or demand sex from them.
And nothing will be done to you.
Nothing will be done to me. Nothing.
My toes are curling.
You can look and
you can touch.
Sleep talker, where's your secret from my lips? So preacher, preacher, wake up call. You can still have the sun is creeping.
Well, Anna, that looks pretty amazing. Our next two panelists I'm very jealous of because they're sitting in Cannes. They're really there. They are filmmakers Ava Lanska and Christina Rose, both of us joining us, as I said, from Cannes. Ava, let's deal with you first. Ava is a London-based director and screenwriter. Her award-winning film Little French Fish is also a finalist in the French Riviera Film Festival. It draws attention to the global stigma against interracial marriages through the relationship of an Orthodox Jewish woman and a Muslim man. During the pandemic, Ava launched Motek, a romantic short web series. And at Cannes, Ava is spotlighting her upcoming feature, I Am Not an Actress, inspired by the philosophy of French icon Brigitte Bardot, and her new short film, documentary, The Abraham Accords Change History, Women in the Middle East, is also part of her reason for being in Cannes. Welcome, Ava.
Hi. Hi.
And
Hello.
Ava, we're going to see some of your film now. Well, that looks fascinating as well. Thank you, Ava. Our next panelist is Christina Rose. She's an American-German director, producer, and screenwriter, and is part of the new Hollywood movement, which brings entertainment to the global world. She's worked in North America, Europe, Africa, and Asia. Together with her brother Michael, she co-founded Mirror Water Entertainment. And prior to this, Christina worked at such companies as Arad Productions, Exclusive Media, and ZDF Enterprises. Most recently, she was an executive at the European network Sky. At Cannes, she's presenting her highly anticipated 6-part documentary series, Wonder Women, where she spotlights young women leaders in underrepresented industries from around the world. Her short documentary, A Woman's New World, is a finalist. Welcome, Christina.
Thank you very much for having us here in Cannes. I'm so happy to be sitting next to Ava. I'm sorry that there are helicopters over
That's
us right
okay.
now, but it gives you a little bit of the Cannes feeling for those who can't be here.
Thank you, Christina. Don't rub it in. We're now going to see some of your film.
Thank you.
Motorsports is dominated by men. Oh, I mean, a lot of industries are dominated by men. Why?
It's entertaining for me. You can tell they're expecting some, businessman, and they see me, and I think a lot of people are taken back by that.
Just to stop the young Australian.
I was told by an orchestra that they had never had a woman conductor for as long as they could remember.
The mission hasn't really changed from the beginning. The mission is to send the first female German astronaut into space.
When people say, oh, I have it in my blood, no, I didn't have aviation in my blood, but I still reached and managed to be at a good level in my career. So.
Yo digo que las personas tienen que ir viendo ya que las cosas están cambiando. La mujer también tiene la misma visión, tiene la misma capacidad de enfrentarse a lo que el hombre se enfrenta.
You know, a lot of times that it's okay. Sometimes you're not good at things and it's completely okay. Some people will succeed and some will fail. And if you're failing at something, it's okay. It's okay to fail. It's easy to say to don't give up, but if you really experience it in life, then it really pays off.
I've been told by so many people that I couldn't do certain things, and it never is. You just gotta do it.
And I knew very clearly that however long it was going to take, I had to keep going.
Well, these film clips are so inspiring. Thank you, Christina. And finally, our last panelist, last but not least, certainly, is Bertrand Normand, who's joining us today from Paris. And he's another traveler because he's just returned from Russia, where he was finishing up his latest work, The Rocking Baritone. Bertrand is a French filmmaker and producer and a graduate of Canada's Vancouver Film School. His latest short film, The Photographer, has participated in more than 70 festivals internationally and received 13 awards. His most renowned documentary, Ballerina, was a portrait of 5 Russian ballerinas from the Kirov Ballet, and that's been released worldwide. In 2016, Bertrand founded the production company Les Films du Jour Prochain, which has produced the short films The Taste of Ginger by Jean-Robert Thoman and Iskra by Adrian Raplansky, both of which are finalists in the festival. Welcome, Bertrand.
Thank you.
Nice to see you. And Bertrand, we're going to see the trailer for The Rocking Baritone now.
Nikitin is a universal singer. His ability to sing both more lyrical or more heroic, more dramatic roles is unique.
Tout le monde m'a dit non, mais il est là. Je croyais que c'était un machiniste.
Ai prima d'ora li avevo notati. La lampada!
Никол, стоп! Это очень важно. Не получается.
Я был первым русским певцом в истории фестиваля, которому доверили тайтл ролл.
I think he did a stupid tattoo when he was a young man. This doesn't mean that he was a Nazi.
Of course, it was painful for him to go through this, I don't think anyone could expect anything like this to happen.
Я вообще хотел бросить все, я хотел бросить петь, я хотел вообще заняться чем-нибудь другим.
Well, that looks amazing, Bertrand. As I said, this is a global showcase, and I think you'll agree that the film clips and the panelists are very much global this evening. So, Bertrand, I'm going to come to you first of all, because with some films, the name just grabs you immediately, the rocking baritone. Already, I know there's two areas that you're going to be looking at simply from the title. So tell me a little bit about what the project is about, if you were describing it to someone who knew nothing about it.
It is about an artist who is an opera singer and who happens to also be a rocker and a heavy metal drummer. He's singing at the Mariinsky Theater in St. Petersburg. I made his acquaintance a long time ago. Like I heard him sing in Paris in 2003. And I was very struck by his personality, by his voice. And for years, I followed him on stage. And one day I had the opportunity to meet him for real. And when I met him for real, I thought, I cannot not make a documentary about this character. By then, I had already made a documentary about ballerinas from the Kirov Ballet. So I had started to make portraits of Russian artists, stage artists, and I wanted to continue in this direction. And after tackling the art of ballet and the art of conducting, I wanted to tackle the art of opera. And he was the perfect character for this.
And again, it's your second venture into Russia. So what is it about that country and its culture that draws you?
I think it's the intensity of the artists. And the Russian soul is very contrasted. It's got a lot of great things and a lot of evil things. And I think that it is great for art. It's probably less good for politics or for business. Best artists that we've had in history are from Russia. You know, whether it comes to literature or to music or to painting. So I've always been very moved and very inspired by Russian artists. And it is something that I always notice on stage, whether it is ballet dancers or musicians, conductors, or singers. There is something that really draws me. And I want to share this with the viewers.
Yeah. And with the rocking baritone, obviously you're crossing two genres of rock and opera. And how was that, trying to marry those two worlds for you as a filmmaker?
Well, I just film things as I experienced them, because for me, making a documentary film is actually sharing a part of my life. I don't make documentary films about the past with archival footage. It's always about people who are alive, and I follow them in their life, and somehow it becomes part of my life as well. So what I'm showing in this film, what I've shown in other films, is what I experienced directly. And it was just a mix of many things, a mix of opera and rock, of painting, of going to the countryside, of, like experiencing nightlife in St. Petersburg, or backstage in theaters, traveling throughout the world. It's many things together. So certainly opera and rock are the two main aspects, but they're just two aspects of this film.
And when you looked at the different art forms, is there a common feature in all of them, whether you're a rocker or an opera singer or a painter? Is there something that you think, yeah, I recognize that in each and every field?
Well, he's very. This artist is very demanding with himself, and he's demanding in every single thing that he does. So when he works on a song, on his own song, he can works on scoring it for months until he's got the right version. So it's I think that whatever the aspect, whatever the art, I always find specifics and the personality of this particular artists can be recognized. So it was somehow different and not that different, because I could see that there was still the same kind of demand from him. But of course, the different thing was that on the one hand, there's a huge focus on him, which is the opera stage, and on the other hand, he can really completely release himself and let it go. So that's a main difference.
And Bertrand, just looking generally now at documentaries and short films, I think a lot of our viewers will want to know, how do you get funding for either making a documentary or making a short film? And then I want to ask you about distribution.
Well, documentaries get funded through acquisitions from TV channels, commissions, in France, through the Ministry of Cinema, which is the CNC, the National Center of Cinema, which gives grants. From regions, there are some regional grants as well. So these are the main sources of funding for documentaries in France. Of course, crowdfunding is also an alternative way of funding, which I've used a few times, and I've used it for this project in particular. But then, for international projects, it's of course very interesting to look for a co-producer and to get some funding abroad, which has been the case for this project. I found a co-producer in Russia, and he's found part of the funding, which has allowed to do the post-production. So sometimes you don't get a commission from a TV channel, and then you have to find money differently. And a crowdfunding campaign can be very useful. Or getting a co-producer is very useful. That's the two things that we've used.
Yeah, obviously we're going to hear from Ali shortly about crowdfunding. And then in terms of distribution, how do you get your short film or documentary seen?
Documentaries, it can be in movie theaters. That happened to Ballerina years ago. This is what we're planning for this film now again. TV channels, obviously. There is already a number of TV channels which are interested in this one. Ballerina was broadcast in many countries, and so was Tchaikovsky on the Road, which was another documentary which I made about Valery Gergiev, the famous Russian conductor. Platforms as well. Ballerina was on Netflix for years. Tchaikovsky on the Road has been on Amazon Prime Video. My latest short film has also been on Amazon Prime Video for years, and on other platforms as well. So platforms more and more are a vehicle for films to be seen, whether documentaries or short films. But sometimes it's hard to get the access, especially to get commissions from platforms. So more and more films get made, and there are not that many opportunities to get a commission from platforms. So that's where the real competition is.
And I've been hearing a lot from Cannes about co-productions. So how do they fit into the work that you do?
Well, they fit very naturally because when a film has an international scope and represents some interest for another country, it's very natural for a producer from that country to get involved because there is a market there are sources of funding, and is much more capable of releasing the film in that territory than I would be. So it's a win-win for everyone. It may not happen necessarily at the very start of a project. It can happen halfway through, which was the case. for this project. Like we had shot like probably more than 50% of the film, and then I met this producer in Russia, and he was very enthusiastic, and he offered to make a deal. And we knew some people in common, so I trusted him, and so far it's been a very good cooperation. And it has really allowed us to finish this film, to complete it, to complete it. Like without this co-producer, I don't know where we would be in right now. So it has really saved this project. So I think that it can save a lot of projects.
Great, thank you, Bertrand. And in fact, that leads nicely to Ava. I wanted to ask about your documentary, The Abraham Accords Change History, Women in the Middle East. Now that in itself, I've said to Bertrand about titles, it sounds like a very heavy topic. Is it?
This is completely different story. And the Abraham Accord, for me, this is like, first of all, this is agreement about the peace. And I think this is our duty as a filmmaker to support peace. This accord is actually change the history in the Middle East. So for me, it was important, like a mission to find out what's really going on. So this year I visited and I filmed in Israel and in Emirates. So now I can distribute this information, what I found out around the world. And this is my way to support this agreement because it's very fresh. And the peace in the world, actually.
And again, the international element, you filmed in Israel and the United Arab Emirates. Can you tell us what challenges, if any, you faced in each of those two very different countries?
I'm not a producer of this project. I am a director and a scriptwriter. So I had two producers who I co-produced with me this film. One is based in Dubai and one in Israel. So I was very lucky and they helped me to organize everything in place. And the amazing thing, we get probably like everything 80% for free because people would like to support the idea. And I found this fascinating.
Now, Bertrand mentioned that he found people to work with in other countries. You've just said it as well. If someone is watching this thinking, well, how on earth do I get hold of someone in Israel or Russia or wherever? How did that kind of participation in your project come about?
Actually, I'm 15 years in film business, so I have a lot of friends in social media, and it's really helped. So when I start my project, I distribute this information around all social media. So I found immediately a lot of colleagues who would like to take part. It's help. I mean, we contact, we share, we introduce one of each other. This is how we're coming to the final film. Editing and filming and makeup. When you have friends and they like the idea, they support. This is what I also do. So I think this is amazing.
It is amazing. Now, you're in Cannes, as we've said, and for the past year, many festivals have been online. Cannes this year has reopened to participants in person. First of all, how's it going? What's the festival like this year?
First of all, we are very lucky and very happy we can be here and actually see our colleagues, speak in real life, to feel this kind of feeling of freedom, which we really missed in Europe for a long time. So yes, it's happening. It's real moving. I mean, it's nearly there as it was in the past. Maybe Christina would like to share it.
No, it's true. I mean, it's so nice and lovely to see people again, and it feels more normal, and so we're going in the right direction. I think it's there's still a lot of people who haven't been able to come over here, so hopefully next year we'll see everybody, and it's going to be as full as it can be. But it's been really great being out here.
Obviously, there's a place for online work. But really, can I suggest nothing beats, as you've just said, Christina, meeting people face to face, talking to them. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Because there's so many things that happen that you can't plan for, that are unexpected, that are spontaneous, and those things happen when you're here and you're walking down the Croisette or in the Palais, and so that's the difference.
And what's the weather like?
Well, you can see it's beautiful. It's nice. It's sunny. It's warm. It's perfect.
Right. Going back to you, Ava, your next project, I Am Not an Actress, feature film based on the philosophy of Brigitte Bardot. Now, obviously, everyone knows Brigitte Bardot. She's an icon. She's also a controversial figure. Tell me what drew you, first of all, to her and then to the idea of a project based around her philosophy.
This project took me many years, to be honest, to make the script down as a scriptwriter. I follow Brigitte Bardot for many years because I used to live in France. I speak French and I was a singer. So I know all her songs and, of course, all her films. And by the way, good things, yesterday and this morning, I visit her house in Saint-Tropez because I think for film director, it is extremely important to have this kind of real feeling, you know, like calm and meditate and understand one more time, you know, what's really like, what was, you know, I mean, how it's looked for. And it's given me a lot of nice feeling. So now I'm looking forward. I hope we're going to start to shoot this year. This is not a biopic. This is actually like a thriller. And Brigitte Bardot, she is just part of a story. But first of all, this is a story of each woman who would like to make her career and in show business. And I mean, how it's looked from inside, because it's quite difficult to be a woman and to be a woman in show business. I've been an actress. I was a singer, so I know what I'm talking about. So this is a film that's dedicated to each woman who would like to make a career in show business. And of course, Brigitte Bardot, she is one of them. I mean, she is the person who really gave me this inspiration. Yeah.
Sounds fascinating. I'm really looking forward to seeing that. Moving on to another woman who has looked at the role of women, I suppose, Anna Fishbein. Anna, Galaxy 360, A Woman's Playground, we just saw it, and it looks amazing. So you wrote, directed, and starred in the film, and we saw you in the clips. Tell me, what did you learn from wearing each of those many hats on the film?
I learned that there's an incredible synergy between all of those hats, actually. And I loved both. I actually loved directing and acting at the same time. And that was an amazing experience for me, because I was very afraid to do it in the beginning, because I thought, you know, this is a huge undertaking and it'll be difficult to kind of figure out what the situation is on set with all the actors and me having to be in costume. As you saw, I was in costume. I actually found that it was amazingly empathetic, and I was able to be empathetic to the actors because they were going through something and I was going through something, and we were actually going through more than just a normal film. We had switched gender roles. We had to imagine what it would be like to be in the other person's shoes. In my film, all the women have power. In my world, women are billionaires. In my world, the men are the beauty, the candy, you know, the ones that everybody wants and wants to grab and wants to talk about how good looking and sexy and young they are. And so all the men had to kind of throw away everything that they know in this world and be essentially us and worry about their wrinkles and worry about their fat and feel ostracized if they're not perfect. And the women had to be these powerful creatures who could do whatever they want. And so that process of at once knowing what the vision was and having to be that person it created an amazing synergy, and everyone knew that I was on set for as long as everybody, doing exactly what everybody was doing. So they knew that I was with them kind of in the pit, and it gave the actors and me an amazing relationship. So I actually loved that feeling. And I had been told by many people in the past, don't direct and act at the same time. It's too difficult. You need somebody to watch you. But I actually found it to be empowering, if I could use that word.
You called it a woman's playground. Was there an element of fun?
Oh, yes. There was a lot of fun. There was a lot of fun on set and off set. And we rehearsed a lot. And it was incredibly fun to imagine the switch in the gender roles for everyone involved. And the actors and everybody on set said this was one of the funnest sets they've ever been on. And we would literally like do a take, and then everybody would just burst into laughter right as soon as we'd say cut, as soon as I would say cut.
And how open were the men to being in the role that women often are?
So it's interesting because the casting process, I was casting the male actors, and I had a lot of people who wanted to be in this movie, and I interviewed a lot of male actors. And I was looking for, I would say, 3 things in all of my interviews. I would say the same thing. How comfortable are you being in a Speedo for a very long time? How comfortable are you talking about your own self? Are you okay with being insecure and talking about your insecurities? And the third thing is, how do you feel about women? And all of the male actors that we worked with were actually extraordinary, and they were incredibly sympathetic. And many of them at the end of making this movie would come up to all the women and say that we learned so much through the process of making, we learned so much about you. And they would ask us questions like, do you guys experience this all the time? Because we would say to them, oh, you look hot. Oh, I love when you wear this. And, we'd make these remarks to them, and they would say to us, they'd turn to us and they'd say, do you guys experience this all the time? Like all the time? And we'd say, oh yeah, all the time. It's all about our looks. It's all about our looks. And they'd be like, oh my God, that's how you live. And that experience for both the men and the women was extraordinary. And for all of us women who played, the women in charge, the women in power, for us to experience their empathy when we would call cut, that was an amazing experience for us as well. So it's the...
And as for the audiences, Anna, what do you want men and women to take away from the film?
I would love to change the world, to be honest with you. I would like to have an impact. I would love for, men to walk away and have the experiences that the men on set had and say, hey, maybe we can do something to help you guys, to make this an easier life than it has been. And, to work towards the greater good. In the film, there's a biting message at the end, and I do deal quite openly with the question of sexual harassment. The women in the film sexually harass the men, and it's all in jest, and it's all hilarious, and it's all very funny, but it also hits important points in our lives and touches upon the Me Too movement and touches upon men who have harassed women who there have been no consequences for them. And what I'd like for audiences to take away is that, perhaps it's time to truly change our world, both men and women. And for women to feel like, we're all out there, that there's a empathy among us, that there's a community among us, and that we can connect with one another and make a difference. And really, this is partially for men as well. This is truly like, the 360 movement where, it's not just about women complaining about what's going on in our society. It's about men stepping up and supporting women.
Hear, hear, Anna. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Ali, let's come to you now. Auteur Academy, Ali. Why did you decide to create it, and what do you hope to achieve with it?
Thanks, Rena. By the way, it's really inspiring to listen to everybody and hear their stories. I wish we were all in France right now, but I guess we're all joining from different locations. Rena, when Nicola's telling you, by the way, that your camera was a little tilted, if you want to fix. And thank you for really doing an impactful, executing an impactful project. I think that's really inspiring, and that's something actually we're working on right now. And the Author Academy actually came out of this, similar vision as well. Our platform is mainly for crowdfunding, for independent filmmakers to come in and, because we get pitched a lot of projects all the time. And normally we started as more of a private group of, a private company, a boutique company that serves accredited investors and family offices to invest in films using tax incentives. And now we're at a point, I personally got excited about so many different projects that I couldn't help just because of timing. And then we ended up turning our company into a crowdfunding platform so we can help everybody and, raise a little bit, at least a development budget for every independent filmmaker that we see fit for the platform. Obviously, we vet these projects, but the goal was to help out independent filmmakers fund their films as soon as possible, because most of the time, a lot of filmmakers, even the first-time filmmakers, raise I heard this actually yesterday on a different panel. Someone pitched a project to me for $30 million for a first feature project, and I was like, okay, this is really exciting. You can dream this, and you can achieve this as well. I have full faith. But as a first-time filmmaker, I think it'd be great to start somewhere smaller and get comfortable. That was my opinion, but a lot of filmmakers think that way. So that first $10,000, $15,000, even that's really important, to put a legal structure, put a business plan together, hire a couple people, and actually pay them to do work, and accelerate your project a little bit faster to execute. That's what we're trying to do with the crowdfunding platform. And Author Academy came as a result of it, because obviously we give this structure to the filmmakers and the films that they produce, but I couldn't personally do it one-on-one coaching all the time. I work really closely with directors, but we had to kind of democratize this knowledge and democratize the business side of filmmaking using the Hollywood model. And we shot, when I say we were a team of executive producers, and actually we have a larger community now as we keep in touch with all the members. We shot at Alfred Hitchcock's makeup artist house in LA with 12 executives from the industry that are really successful, and they all talked about different aspects of filmmaking from the business end. So with Author Academy, we wanted to share that information with everybody, and then we decided to even run an accelerator program similar to Silicon Valley model, where startups were booming, and the term unicorn started appearing everywhere. There is a need for a consolidation. So, incubators like Y Combinator, incubators like Singularity University, Draper, we started hearing all these Shark Tank. This is basically a symptom. These are all symptoms of consolidation in the industry, because there's a lot of demand to run new startups, but you need more structure. I think the same thing is happening in the film industry, and that's why we started all these initiatives and pushing them further. So mainly, to answer your question, we started Author Academy as a result of a need in the industry to help independent filmmakers navigate the business side of filmmaking.
And someone watching this, feeling really inspired to make a film, are you able to give them any advice as to what sort of projects people are looking to crowdfund?
Yeah. My team will be pissed at me because I'm biased towards this, but I'm more about social impact when it comes to crowdfunding projects. I think projects that have an impactful arm that support SDGs mainly, those projects trigger emotional points in people, and crowdfunding is really sometimes emotional. So, whenever you have a log line for a horror film that's a little interesting, I think that is appealing to a crowdfunding audience differently than when you want to save the polar bears in Antarctica, which is actually a project we're helping out right now.
And what about your own projects? What are you working on now, or what are you looking to make?
I'm shooting a new feature film next week, which is really exciting in LA. We're shooting for 3 weeks, starting Saturday. It's a psychological thriller. It's about a journey of an actress that comes to LA to become a famous actress, and she starts working at a mental health clinic as a hostess, and then interesting things starts happening. That's a film that we're shooting, and what's exciting is that we're selling some of the digital merch as NFTs, and I'm really looking forward to it and see how that goes.
And are you directing that or producing it, or
I'm producing
both?
that one.
You're producing that one.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ali.
Sure.
Moving on to Christina, I'd love to talk to each of you for so much longer, but I'm looking at the clock. We are running out a little bit of time. Christina Rose, Wonder Women. Now, we know Wonder Woman, so tell me about your Wonder Woman. What prompted you to look into this particular topic?
Well, first of all, there are a lot of Wonder Women out in this world who need to be featured. So I'm featuring 6 of the many that exist. However, the project a little bit chose me because my cousin, who's from Alaska in the fishing industry, she actually visited my brother, who's also my business partner, and mentioned of how fisher women have not really been represented. And so the next day, my brother immediately called me, told me about this, and I'm like, yeah, I think this is a good story to tell. But we figured, the fishing industry itself, which has a representation of women globally around 12%, is just one of many other industries. And so we said we have to feature women from all over the world, from all different kind of industries, and that's how kind of Wonder Woman came about. So we're really, really excited and lucky and happy that we're featuring my cousin, the fisherwoman from Alaska, astronaut trainee from Germany, because there's never been a female astronaut in Germany at all. A race car driver from Hungary, the first Puerto Rican baseball player who's played in the men's league, a musical conductor originally from Shanghai, and at the age of 5 moved to New Zealand, and a wonderful, amazingly talented pilot from India, which we just finished 2 months ago, which we're very excited about. And I have to mention this fact because I think you'll all be surprised that the representation of commercial female pilots globally is around 5%. But in India, it is 14%. And so if you want to know why that is, you'll have to see our series, which I'm so excited to say and announce that at the end of August, beginning of September this year, it is going to premiere at the 10th anniversary of Kat Kramer's Films That Changed the World, with this year's theme, She Rose for Change. So that is so exciting, and I'm truly, absolutely grateful to Kat Kramer for giving us this platform and this opportunity. It's a dream come true.
Congratulations, Christina. The episode with the female pilot from India, you filmed it during the pandemic. What was that like?
It was an adventure, to say the least, because here's the thing. First of all, a long story short, but we ended up not being able to finish the whole series because of the pandemic interrupted our last episode. And I was very fortunate to find Annie Divya, the female pilot, and be able to film her. And originally, I wanted to bring my team from Germany to India. And while I was able to get my visa, they weren't able to get their visas. So we don't know why. We had to reshift. And eventually I said, okay, I know some very good, talented people in India. So we wanted to start filming with them. But then the second wave in India hit. And so with my visa expiring at the end of May, we didn't have much of a choice. So I met Annie once because she does ultra long haul flights from Delhi to North America. So I met her once in Chicago, and we filmed there for a couple of days. And at the end of May, for 1 week, I decided to jump into the plane that was fairly empty because nobody wanted to fly to India. And for that whole time, we were able to film with her. And and I have to say, if it weren't for the help of Annie and some amazing friends of her, Shahid, Karishma, Vinay, Kayo, you all know who you are. They've been extremely helpful to supporting me, because all of a sudden I had to film, I had to direct, I had to produce, I had to do sound. My sound designer in India is probably not happy with the sound I was able to manage. But sometimes the whole essence and point of the story is sometimes you have to think outside of the box. You can't let challenges or hardships stand in your way. Anything is possible if you set your mind to. And if anybody has taught me that, it's certainly Annie. And hopefully people will be able to see this episode and appreciate the work that she does.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Not ignoring the men, but can I just ask this question of the women on the panel? So many amazing projects from each of you. Anyone can answer this. How do you see the future from this point? Maybe start with you, Anna.
For women in film, is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Oh, I definitely see a much, much brighter future. I think that the fact that there was a woman director who just won, the fact that more and more women in Hollywood are actually directing films, the fact that women are stepping behind the camera and taking on these giant projects, I think is extraordinary. And it actually gives me chills just to talk about it, because I don't know, 10 years ago, this wasn't happening. And more women are deciding what they're going to make the movie about, if they're going to direct that movie, whether they're going to have a female cinematographer or male cinematographer. And I think it's an interesting topic. I think that when men and women in this industry learn to work together in ways that is comfortable for women, I think it'll be extraordinary and better than it's ever been. I have extremely positive and positive feelings about the future, truly.
And following on from that, for each of you, do you think that this period that we're going through where women are being offered projects is really something just for a while and then it'll go back? Or do you think now is that the dam has burst, as it were? Christina, let's come to you.
Well, I certainly don't think that's going to happen, because I think even women themselves are realizing what they're capable of and what they can do, and they're not afraid themselves to be their own roadblock. However, that being said, and I just said it beautifully, it's not just about women supporting women, but it's also working together. Because I want to make sure people understand this. There are a lot of people who on Wonder Woman helped me that are men, that helped me even make it better because of their point of view. And it's that collaboration. But it's in that sense, it's about women helping each other, but also women and men collaborating on a better basis. And so I don't see us women going anywhere anytime soon. That is for certain.
Bertrand and Ali, not to leave you out on this topic, when you're looking at people to work with on each of your projects, do you think, well, I'm looking for a female whatever, scriptwriter or producer, or do you just think, I want the best person for this particular project, and it could be male, it could be female, it really doesn't matter? How do you approach your own teams? Perhaps Bertrand, if I start with you.
Sure. Well, personally, it's not really a question that comes to my mind, because I've worked with men, with women. I've got great collaborators, producers, editors, who were women. And so I never think, well, should it be a man, should it be a woman? It just so happens that there are some great professional women, very creative, that I really enjoy working with. And for me, there's no difference. between men and women in that regard. So therefore, it's not really like something that comes to my mind. It just happens.
And that's
there have been many examples.
Great, thank you. And Ali, you just told us about your forthcoming film. It's based around a woman. Again, when you're looking at stories, do you think this is a story for a female audience, or do you just think this is a story that will appeal to anybody and I want to make it?
I think I would answer that saying, does this story need to be told? And I think especially these days, the stories regarding women are missing, and I think those need to be told. And that's why we wanted to make. I just wrapped a short in Turkey, in Cappadocia, because the increasing femicide rates are crazy, and someone has to say something about it. And I realize a lot of people, a lot of citizens don't want to talk about it because they think it's a political issue. But it's oppression to that degree from the government. But I think this is just a very basic story to tell, because it's a woman empowering story about a very important topic, and it's just social responsibility at the end of the day. I think those are when it comes to making a movie regarding making a movie about telling a story about a woman, I think that's how I think. But working with women, I think I prefer. I mean, what's gender in 2021? But working with women is, I think, something that I prefer. And I always say this out loud because people that I have, actually all of the 3 films that I'm producing right now are female directors, and all female crews. Most of them, most of the crew is female, and the creative directors are all female as well. And I think I really enjoy that, because I think working with women is a little easier, because sometimes working with men, you run into a lot of toxic masculinity issues, and I think with women, communication is a lot easier, I would say. And people are more about doing, not necessarily about each other. And I think I really like that dynamic, and I think I really enjoy how driven a lot of women directors are. They just want to execute an idea. I mean, I don't know if Wendy's watching this, but Wendy McComb is someone that I worked with in the past, and she's a really successful actress, and she's making this movie, amazing Sundance film, that she wants it for Sundance, and she's been doing that for 2 years, and she just shot it relentlessly for 2 years, and she finally wrapped it. And I just, and watching that journey was really, really amazing. And I think, when it comes to working with female directors, I see that often, and I really enjoy it.
Yeah. Can I ask a question of each of you in turn? How important are festivals? You've made your film, you want to get it out, you want people to see it. How important is the festival circuit? So perhaps if I start with Bertrand and work my way around.
Sure. Yes, festivals are crucial, because they really determine distribution. For example, my documentary Ballerina, which was released already 12 years ago, it first went to a few festivals, and then it went to more festivals. After it was selected by the Vancouver International Film Festival, then other festivals got interested, and then it was selected by many festivals. And then we got the interest of a US distributor for the United States and Canada. We got a German distributor, a Japanese distributor, an Australian distributor, and these nearly all from festivals. So definitely for either feature films or creative documentaries, the festivals should be like the first stage of the life of any film. And then films go to theaters, they go to TV channels, they go to platforms. So now, which festivals to choose? There are several levels of festivals. There are the A-class festivals, like Berlin, Cannes, Venice, Sundance, I think Toronto, and others. So one usually wants to start with these kind of festivals, and usually they demand exclusivity. They want to be the first ones to show a given film. But one should not just limit themselves to these festivals, because there are a lot of other very valuable festivals, and one should not wait 1 year before sending a film to other festivals. I had a great experience with the Vancouver International Film Festival, and had a great experience with the Palm Springs International Film Festival, with the DC International Film Festival, the Warsaw International Film Festival. And I'm really happy that my film has been in all these festivals, and it really opened a lot of doors.
Thank you, Bertrand. I said I would go around, but in fact, we've got some questions coming in from viewers. So I'll just move very quickly to Ali, and I will come back to the festival question in a moment. Ali, one question for you is, what would a filmmaker learn in your auteur academy over a shorter period that they wouldn't perhaps get from a more traditional film school?
How to make money with the film.
Okay, that's a good answer.
Yeah, I would say that. And I think it's important, to see different perspectives when it comes to filmmaking. Independent filmmakers usually tend to fail to see, a studio executive perspective. And I think those are very important to understand in the industry, because 98% of the films that we watch in the theaters are produced by studios, right? Only 2% are independent filmmakers. So in order to, I think, understand the industry, you really have to understand the studio system as well.
And Ava, another question that's come in for young filmmakers, or really upcoming filmmakers, they may not particularly be young. How do you go about finding a producer? Because obviously you're at Cannes at the moment. Is that the sort of place you would go to find a producer? Where else can you find them?
Yes, actually, we come back to the question of film festivals. I think it's extremely important for any filmmakers to participate, and as Bernard mentioned already, to try all the type of film festivals. My films altogether, they participate more as 50 film festivals. And I can mention this is one of the main source of all the contact what I have on the moment. Your film, any film, even with very small budget, is all about your team and where you can find the talent in film festivals. And if you can participate in person like we do now in Cannes, this is a treasure. We meet every day different kind of people, a lot of investors here, a lot of actors, script writers, and of course, nothing can replace this, especially women film festivals. This is a fascinating thing, to come back to the topic.
And sorry to interrupt. Christina Rose, moving on from that, a young filmmaker might say, well, how on earth do I get to somewhere like Cannes? So what other outlets might there be for a young filmmaker who doesn't have the contacts to go to big festivals?
That's a very, very good question. I think you start off with just the goal of wanting to kind of say, where do you want to end up with your project? And even if it doesn't end up at Cannes or any of the big film festivals, there are a lot of other good film festivals that might be the perfect fit, that might have the type of same genre or topic or same people that you want to interact with anyways. And so it's not always about the big ones, but also just being able to network. I think that's the key at the end of the day. You have to get to know other people who support you, who agree with the same type of style. And so with that networking, you will be able to continue growing. And I know Ali mentioned at the very beginning that, 30 million for a first-time filmmaker can be very ambitious, but sometimes you don't need that. Less is more. You can accomplish a lot on a low budget in order to find your voice, your style. And so I think in that sense, pick the story you want to tell and kind of create a roadmap of how you want to go about getting it out to an audience. And it might not be in that first plan that you make it out to be, but there are always other opportunities in other ways, and you have to be flexible.
And never give up. I need to add this. This is, I think, one of the most important for the filmmakers. You need to believe in yourself, doesn't matter what.
And Anna, coming to you, you've made this film now about a very specific topic about women. Do you then fear that you might be pigeonholed into being the women's filmmaker? Or how do you pick your topics?
I've thought about that because I've had a lot of sort of female-focused projects in the past. My film Happy Hour Feminism was a film also about women and gender roles, and my first play was called Sex in Mommyville, and it was also about women. And I picked these topics because of injustices I've experienced in this world. And so whenever I would see something around me, I would say that I'm a filmmaker that cares about causes and that cares about making an impact. And I think that from now on, I will always be, in a sense, making films like that. And even my film Invisible Alice is a bilingual film and about an immigrant in America and how she's struggling to become an actress and a singer. The film Invisible Alice, which is in the French Film Festival. And I think about topics that I've lived through, essentially, and then I try to bring humor and fun to those topics. I try to bring humor to tragedy, and to make it entertaining in a way, because the artist can make a difference through humor in a much more impactful way. And kind of get the message across. So I hope to be making a lot of comedies in the future, but I'm also extremely interested in sci-fi. I'm very, very interested in imagining an altogether new world where we can kind of shape it in the way that we want, in however way we want, with equality and justice for all, and see what happens there, and what happens if you live in a utopia or a dystopia. I hope to be making those kinds of movies. I'm not afraid to be pigeonholed as a woman filmmaker, as a women's topic filmmaker. But I hope to be the filmmaker who is making movies that will have an impact.
Yeah. Thank you, Anna. That's really an important point you've made there about the entertainment and the humor. I agree with you. And Ali, coming back to a point you made earlier about the crowdfunding, how important is what Anna's just said, that when you're putting a film out there, an idea, that it is entertaining and it is not just a cause that you're pushing? How important do you think that is for audiences?
I think it's important, and I think it's the most important that Anna is the one that makes it happen, and she believes in it the most. And I think in crowdfunding that is very important, because we usually shoot sizzles with directors and then to ask them what they think about the project and why they're doing it and what's the passion behind it. And when someone pitches it to the audience, like Anna does, with a lot of excitement and a lot of meaning behind, I think in crowdfunding that helps.
Thank you. And Bertrand, a question's come in for you. How do you go about selecting your topics for your documentaries? And the second part of the question is, how do you think documentaries are likely to impact Hollywood on a larger scale?
What inspires me most is people, characters. So topics and stories for me follow, like they are determined by the characters that I choose. So once in a while, I just meet someone and I think, wow, this person inspires me. And there is really something that I want to express to the audience about this person. That's how I choose. It doesn't happen very often. It happens maybe, I don't know, like every other year. And when that happens, then I do my best to make a documentary about that person. It can be like a few people or one person. And almost every time that I've made a documentary film, it's been that way. And then the story unfolds itself. I find the story through the character. So for example, ballerinas, I was just inspired by several ballerinas that I saw rehearsing, performing on the stage of the Kirov of the Mariinsky Theater or at the Academy of Dance in St. Petersburg, and I thought, I'm going to make a film about them. And then I found the story. Same for the rocking baritone. Same for Gergiev in Tchaikovsky on the Road. Now, regarding the second question, how it's going the art of documentary is going to impact Hollywood and the entertainment industry. I think that people in documentaries, they see something that is real. Of course, in a narrative film with actors, when they play something, it looks real. But in documentaries, it's something different. There is a real feeling that this time it's not acted, it's not something like that we're staging, it's for real. I mean, at least some documentaries are like that. And I think that it's something that people really value, to experience something real, but real people, a real experience. And that has its space. I mean, there's an audience for that, and there will always be. And maybe I think the audience is even increasing with time. And a lot of people that I talk with, they tend to like documentaries more and more as time goes along. In France, every week, at least 3 or 4 documentaries are released in movie theaters. So I think that there is a strong future for documentaries in the whole world, not only in France, obviously, and in the United States in particular.
Great, thank you. Now, we have gone slightly over our allotted time. I've got one question for each of you before we wrap up. And that question is, we've obviously been through an unprecedented period in the last year, 18 months or so. How do you see the future of film, whether it's cinema or on the small screen, festivals, whether it's independent or mainstream films? How do you see the future, starting with you, Ali?
I'd say I think we'll see a lot more of a dynamic industry with the streaming platforms increasingly popping around the world. During the pandemic, we have now 420 and plus now, new streaming platforms, and they keep acquiring new content. And now I think content democratization will be definitely there, and we'll see a lot more independent filmmakers being able to produce content and distribute content. And I think in that distribution arm, there's going to be a lot of disruptions using blockchain technologies. And in the production space, I think there's going to be a lot of disruptions in AI. And I'm really excited to see all of them. I think it's going to be more and more exciting every year. And I think the effects of the pandemic will be there for about another 5-7 years.
Thank you. Christina Rose, your view?
Well, I think we're going to see a lot more content too. I think there are a lot more people who are realizing that they have something to say, and they're getting these platforms to say something because of all of these streaming platforms, because content is becoming more global. And so I think we're going to be able to see very, very interesting, fascinating stories. And I can't wait to see them, but I'm also hoping that I can be part of them.
Ava?
I actually agree with Ali and Christina, but people basically, they like to share emotion between each other. So I really hope we will come back to the film theater to see the new films as it was a few years ago and just participate the emotion.
Thank you. Anna, you're looking into the future. What do you see? Anna, you're on mute, I think.
Oh, okay, sorry. I thought that the pandemic gave us an extraordinary opportunity to connect with each other globally. And I feel that it's amazing that we are seeing Eva and Christina in Cannes, and we are here, and we're all in different places. And I think that the one thing that I can say that happened from the pandemic is this relationship between people that happened globally and internationally, and we're able to be anywhere and to connect. And because of that, I think that the film world is going to change, and a lot more people are going to be creating more innovative work. There's going to be more digital work. And I also think there are going to be many, many more relationships between different countries because of that, because we were able to see that we are all globally connected, and we're going to be connecting much more creatively as well.
Great. And Bertrand, your final word on the future?
Yes, following what Anna has just said, there are some very interesting things happening, especially in the interconnection between people from various countries. Like a few months ago, I produced a short film which was part of a competition which took place in Russia, in the city of Kazan in Tatarstan. And normally we should have gone there and shoot the film there, but because of the pandemic, we couldn't. So we stayed in France and we shot the film in France, but we had a second unit over there, and half of the script was taking place there. So we had to monitor the second unit long distance. And part of the film was directed just long distance with a director in France trying to monitor the whole artistic process in Russia and talking with the second unit director, with the DOP, with the actors. It was a very interesting process, and eventually it was kind of successful. And so it's something that I think will happen more and more, and it opens a lot of new opportunities and perspectives.
Thank you very much. You've all been an absolutely wonderful panel. I'd also like to thank behind the scenes the event producers Nicole Mudge and Gautam Chandna. They've been wonderful in the background. And to everyone watching, we'd like to invite you to tune in to the French Riviera Film Festival, which begins tomorrow on July the 12th on itsashort.com. Join us too for our award ceremony, which is also virtual, on July the 14th on itsashort.com as well. And we hope to meet each and every one of you again next year in person on the Croisette. And until then, good evening, bonsoir. Thank you very much, everybody.